with the first pick in the NFL draft.
Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Mock the Mock Show. Today we are breaking down Joel Klatt's mock draft. Joel Klatt, one of my favorite college analysts. Listen to his podcast, The Joel Klatt Show. It's absolutely incredible. Really take his advice on board as well. Former quarterback himself from the Colorado Buffaloes. So hopefully one day we'll have him on the show and we can chat to him. That would be fantastic. But today we're going to go through his I was going to say 101. It's not 101. It's 1.0 mock draft. Adam, you put the poll out. This is the one they picked. Are you looking forward to this one?
Yeah, obviously this is a couple of weeks old now, so we've kind of all seen what he's done. Some interesting decisions, shall we say? But as you say, this guy is the college expert, and he is kind of he's normally pretty accurate as well, isn't he? So it's like he's got quite a history of being pretty accurate on a lot of stuff. So yeah, it looks like it could be interesting, and if what he says happens, then it's going to be an interesting draft night.
Yeah, I think he's got some really good takes. And I think he's kind of what I like to do with my first mock draft as well. I think he's kind of put what he would like to happen based on the talent that he knows. And then I think like when he brings out his second one, it'll be more when he's got a bit more inside knowledge and knows a bit more, because he will be on draft night show. He'll be sat with Daniel Jeremiah, won't he, going through it all on the show, and probably Kurt Warner will be there as well. But should we jump right into it, see what he's got?
Yeah, let's go for it. See what he comes up with.
So first up, no surprise, it's the Chicago Bears taking Caleb Williams. I think as everyone else has put at this point as well, that Fields is probably going to get traded. He said it's probably going to end up. I think it's nailed on now. The odds are now pointing 4-11 for him to be traded to the Falcons. So I think that's going to happen probably just after the combine, you would have thought, no?
Yeah, he's like you say, 4-11 favourites for the Falcons to take on Fields. It would be surprising now if it went a different way. A lot of the other teams, apart from the Steelers, actually, I think have still managed to stay pretty firm in the market. But yeah, it's looking very much that way. And the rumor is that they swapped the 8 and 9 and then the second round as well, pick for the Bears from the Falcons is what the rumor is. So yeah, it'd be surprising if Fields doesn't go now. And so Caleb Williams is being picked, isn't he, as the main guy. We've been saying it from quite a long time out, to be honest. And it would be surprising if it wasn't him.
Yeah, it's just what Klatt says in there, that he's the closest thing we've had to Pat Mahomes in college football for the last 2 years in so many ways. And he's even more polished at the college level than Mahomes was at Texas Tech, which is always a good thing. And I know for me, that USC team's been terrible, and he's managed to win a Heisman Trophy there. So that just shows you the level of talent that he's got. Look, the ability to play outside of the pocket and absolutely deadly on the run, which I think is his best attribute. I've heard a lot of people coming out and saying maybe he's not the number one talent. Do you think that the teams below Chicago, such as the Commanders and the Patriots and people like that, might leak stories into the press to maybe get people to doubt him and then get a shot at taking it?
I think that would be a weird thing for the Commanders to do, given the fact that they are pretty. It feels like, I mean, obviously it's all rumor. Unless you're in the organization, no one knows. But it feels like that they have made offers to the Bears and they have tried to move up. I think because of that, it would be surprised. It'd be difficult if they did do it and got found out. I mean, that would be hilarious, wouldn't it, if that happened? So I don't know. Maybe, you never know. I mean, it's, all's fair in love and war and all that sort of thing. But I'd be surprised if that's what's happening. I just think that once you reach this point, everyone's been speaking about these guys for so long now that people just put stuff out just to come up with something different.
We move on to pick number 2, which is the Washington Commanders taking Drake May. Again, no surprises here. Nothing we didn't already expect. Klatt thinks that May would be a slam dunk #1 overall pick if Williams wasn't in the draft. As you can see there, this is what you get when you go through Klatt's, and it's probably a bit more than yours. I got to call one of his games last year at UNC when he played in the Holiday Bowl. Even in a loss, he was sensational. My jaw was on the floor. This is what you don't get from the others. He's actually covering them and watching them and analyzing them. He's saying what we've said as well, a bit of a Josh Allen 2.0. But again, he had a better college career than what Josh Allen did. So I've heard a lot of people compare him to Justin Herbert as well. So he's being compared to Allen and Herbert. Not bad.
No, not at all. And also, I think as we've said before, it's kind of the obvious choice. We think that he's very, very good. There's a lot of people coming out and saying that Jaden Daniels should be going ahead of him. I think, don't get me wrong, Daniels is great, but I just don't see it myself. I think that May is incredibly talented. And again, I think there's been a lot of stories that have been put out that maybe are a bit sort of like not quite. We just need to fill up some column inches. Yeah, he's very good. He's very polished. I think he's got a great future ahead of him. And Herbert and Allen, as you say, who else would you want to be sort of like coming out and saying, "Oh, this guy can be like these ones"? I mean, it's great for him, really, and I think he'll do fine. Commanders will have done well to get him.
Yeah, as we've said, the combine's on at the moment. Apparently, there are a lot of people saying when he walks into the room, you can just notice how big of a guy he is. I think that in itself is probably worth another tick in a box when you're analyzing these guys. Over what would be number 3 pick for the New England Patriots, taking Jaden Daniels. So 3 quarterbacks off the board with the first 3 picks. Something we've seen on all of the mock drafts that we've done so far. Daniels was sensational as a Heisman Trophy winner the past season and does so many things that should translate to the modern NFL. Again, he's saying a lot of things that we've covered 10 years ago. I think there'd be a big debate whether he was he's not the biggest quarterback, but his mobility and athleticism, yeah, he is the new modern day era, isn't he? And he proved he could, at his size, he could run and take hits and dish out a few hits himself.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a modern day quarterback. He clearly is a very strong runner, but he also is very good in the pocket as well. You know, a lot of people are just putting him down as a runner. He is a very good pocket passer, and you saw that with Malik Neighbors all year long, and Brian Thomas as well. So he's definitely someone that is very talented. Obviously, the amount of hits that he takes is a concern, which is probably why he should be the number 3 quarterback. He needs to sort that out a little bit. But I can completely understand why, if you're not putting any trades in a mock draft like this, why New England would, they need a quarterback. Mac Jones isn't the answer. So, yeah, makes complete sense.
Yeah, lots of rumors they might be taking a veteran. Pick number 4, again, no surprise. It is the Arizona Cardinals taking Marvin Harrison. The Cardinals are set with Kyler Murray. They give him big extension, and now they're going to give him a weapon on the outside. Harrison is an easy pick. It is an easy pick.
Yeah.
We've talked about how phenomenal he is already, haven't we?
Yeah, best wide receiver in the class. They need wide receivers. They haven't really got much there. Hollywood Brown is a free agent. Michael Wilson has shown flashes, but hasn't been amazing. There's not a lot else there, I don't think, if I remember rightly. That's pretty much it. So they need a wide receiver. He is a generational talent, and they would be stupid not to take him if he reached this point.
Pick number 5 is the Los Angeles Chargers taking Brock Bowers, the tight end from Georgia. Yeah, they want to get Justin Herbert another weapon, and he's saying a lot of things. Obviously, I've said in the past as well. Look, 49ers had a guy like Vernon Davis, the deal with Michigan over the last few years. Even go back to 49ers. Yeah, I like the pick. I think you have agreed that you like the pick. Are you now moving away from it? I think I understand that people are questioning this and saying maybe not. We talked about it on the tight end show that maybe you're overpaying if he doesn't succeed straight away. But I see this guy succeeding.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a very good tight end, and he's going to potentially be the top tight end of all these sort of new type of tight ends. Like I say, they're kind of like souped up wide receivers. The concern here is that I feel like it is a tight end, and I believe the NFL still feels like that. And actually, I was listening to something this morning when there's some people that are actually at the combine, and before they started doing all the testing and they were doing the interviews and stuff like that, one of the things that did come up quite a lot was very much that they still feel that this is too high for a tight end, and that seemed to be quite a common thing amongst the people in the NFL teams, that it just feels like number 5 is just too high for Brock Bowers. Kind of almost like middle of the first is fine, but doing this here is just mental, and that they would rather be going for a wide receiver like a Rome Odunze or a Malik Neighbors, which, you know, I can understand that logic and why they would want to do that. But Bowers is a great pass catching weapon. Harbaugh likes to have tight ends in his team, so for that reason, this pick makes sense. But it does seem like it's a little bit unlikely given what we've heard come out of the combine so far this week.
Well, if you take a look at the teams that got to the national championship games this year, the 4, what did they all have? They all had exceptional tight ends: Kelsey, Laporta, Kittle. It's Mark Andrews.
Yeah.
I don't think it's too. There's a common theme there. The ones that didn't make it didn't have high. So I don't think in this day and age, it's not too early to take a tight end. Pick 5, my New York Giants taking Rome Odunze from Washington. Adam, we have said that if it is wide receiver, that Odunze fits better than Malik Neighbors. Let's take a look what that says. I think Giants go wide receiver here, regardless if it's Odunze or Malik Neighbors. They need a playmaker. I would take Odunze. Odunze is phenomenal. This guy is bigger than you think he is. He really is a good route runner. I would categorize him as talent in Harrison. Odunze could be characterized in the best playmakers at wide receiver in the draft. I just think the fact that he's bigger, and he states it in there as well, is what the Giants need. So I agree with this pick, to be fair, even though Neighbors is on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I personally think Neighbors is the better wide receiver of the two, but I can understand why, for this specific team and the specific need, why Odunze makes more sense. As you say, a lot of the Giants wide receivers are similar size, similar height, similar strengths as well, to be honest.
Playing the same place.
Pretty much, yeah. So this guy he would be a difference maker for them. And so I think because of that, I can understand why you'd rather go down that route than go for Neighbors. It's kind of like, I think for a lot of people, Neighbors and Odunze are pretty level. And it's kind of just depends on which flavor you really want, to be honest. And so I think because of that, given the fact that this would suit the Giants a little bit better because it's something that they don't have, that's why the pick makes a lot of sense.
We move on to pick 7. The Tennessee Titans taking offensive tackle Joel Klatt from Notre Dame. We went through our O-line prospects the other night. We talked about how incredible Joel was. We also talked that if he does fall to anybody, it's probably going to be the Titans if the Giants pass on him. This is what they need. I probably don't even need to read what it is. He said, what did he say? The Titans gave up the 4th most sacks last season. Lucky for them, his draft is heavy in offensive tackles. Yeah, great for them, isn't it, that he's fallen to them there?
This is what they need, but apparently, according to Brian Callahan, this isn't necessarily what they want. And he has come out and said that about playmakers, and he has come out and said about needing speed in the same way that the Dolphins have. So, based on that, it does make you think that maybe he wouldn't go O-line, or they wouldn't go O-line at this pick. They do need O-line, but we have spoken before about the O-line, about how strong it is and how strong the depth is. At the same time, we've spoken about how strong the wide receiver class is as well. So it's interesting. It'll be an interesting one to see which way they go. Having said all that, they desperately need O-line. Completely understand why Klatt's gone for Joel. And Joel, I personally think, is the best O-line guy in the class. So makes complete sense. But it does sound like maybe they're thinking about going in a different way.
Just going to bring up their depth chart quickly just to have a little look. They've got, I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to have another good year. I think he's going to play well. I think he fits in there. I think he did play well with Will Levis. Treylon Burks was supposed to be the next AJ Brown, and he is the speed guy. Could you see them bringing in someone like Marquise Brown, who we just spoke about, maybe into that, and then that's them sorted. That's a solid 3 wide receiver set there. If you just get your O-line sorted.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, that might have been what he was talking about, and he might have been coming out and saying that we're going to go for it in free agency. I'm not too sure what their cap space is, but maybe that's the theory, that they can kind of go for a bit of speed in that way instead of going through the draft. But yeah, it just seems like that is a potential that they might go that way.
They are, well, they're the second behind the Commanders for the best cap space. Commanders, okay. Titans, Bears, Patriots. So yeah, they could quite easily go after a wide receiver and get a tackle here. So I'm in agreement so far, down to 7. Would have the same on my own.
Yeah.
Atlanta Falcons taking Dallas Turner. Again, another one that this seems to be the locked-in one for a lot of people's ones. The Falcons need some pass rush help along the edge. Turner is my top-ranked edge rusher, so he remains down south and goes to Atlanta. We've just spoke about the talent of the top 3 edge rushers on the board, and the top 3 could all be the number 1 edge. They're that talented, so I don't think it really matters which one ever you fall in love with. If it's Dallas Turner, happy days.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, it really depends which one you just probably like the best when it comes to interviewing them and stuff like that. But yeah, all 3 of them are very talented. All 3 of them can do lots to really help your team. And I think it was something with the Falcons, if I remember rightly, didn't they have something like the fewest sacks or something like that? It was something like they really struggled last year at that position. So yeah, the position makes sense. You can have any of the top 3, and Dallas Turner, yeah, he's got the potential to be really special. So it's certainly someone that you're going to want to go for.
Yeah, we talked about him being that new hybrid edge rusher linebacker combo. So why not take him? Your bet to be defensive rookie of the year as well, isn't it?
Yeah, possibly. He definitely seems to have the potential to do it. And I think that if he ends up going to somewhere like the Falcons, who have not, I wouldn't say they were awful, but they did struggle a little bit, I think that he could really make a difference on that defense, and that would be huge for them, I think. And if he can do well and kind of almost put in like a Will Anderson type rookie season, then yeah, I think he definitely has the potential to be.
Number 9, the Bears, second pick, taking wide receiver Malik Neighbors. Again, there's a lot of people have got whichever wide receiver is available at this. In my draft, the Bears already selected Williams, so they need to give him some help on the outside. With Harrison Odunze off the board, you think the group of wide receiver prospects is deep enough to go down the rabbit hole so early in the draft? I think it is. Neighbors is really great talent. I would add him with DJ Moore. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about where quarterbacks fall, and usually when they go to the worst team, they haven't really got much around them. But the Bears weren't awful last year. They've got the number 1 pick from the Panthers. And DJ Moore looked great. So giving Williams another weapon is setting him up not to fail, which is something the Bears have been accused of in the past, of setting their quarterbacks up to fail. So makes sense.
Yeah, completely. I mean, it's going to be a seriously dangerous offense, isn't it? If you've got Caleb Williams, Malik Neighbors, and DJ Moore, you've got Cole Kmet as well as a reliable sort of tight end there, and you've got some good not great running options, but a couple of decent running options there as well. They could have a really good offense. I do think they need to improve the O-line, but that's something that they could do later on in the draft, so that wouldn't be too much of an issue for them. But I mean, Neighbors is the last of the top 3 wide receivers, isn't he? There is a drop after this, and so it makes sense that if you want a wide receiver, that you go and get him now.
I think there's one more that I think should be really talked about as being the next one as well, but we'll see if he goes. New York Jets taking Olu Fashanu from Penn State. You've got to maximize the years you have with Aaron Rodgers. He's coming back, but you have to be able to protect him. The Jets have a good enough of a defense, and Garrett Wilson is still on the outside. Yeah, this is perfect, isn't it? Again, he's hit the nail on the head with everything he said. There's a lot of talk of Mekhi Becton. Teams are interested in him, so he looks like he's out the door. So Fashanu needs to be the Jets pick here, doesn't it?
Yeah, so this basically has to be wide receiver or O-line. You have to get a weapon for Rodgers or get some protection for him. And the fact is, with the top 3 going at wide receiver, I think you go O-line now. Fashanu is the next best guy on the O-line, really. Is what is considered by a lot of people anyway, and so it makes complete sense to take him at this pick.
Yeah, I think they could probably wait, maybe get a Roman Wilson or Jalen McMillan or someone like that later on to support. They don't need a wide receiver 1, so they can get a wide receiver 2 later on. There's plenty of guys that are good enough. Lad McConkey, any of them would be perfect later on in the draft. Number 11, the Minnesota Vikings taken Terrion Arnold from Alabama, cornerback. The Vikings, I believe, need some help in their secondary. Arnold is my top cornerback in the draft. But I'm still diving more into scouting these players as draft prospects. There's a handful of cornerbacks in this draft. Yeah, I think he's right in what he's saying there. There is a few cornerbacks in here that could be the number 1. It just so happens that people are falling in love with Terrion Arnold because he has a very high ceiling. So we both agree cornerbacks right here, isn't it?
Yeah, it makes sense. That seemed to be an area that they really struggled with on the defense, that you could score over the top of them. So I think that makes sense that you're going to want to go for a corner. I do think they're a potential trade-up candidate, especially if they take if Kirk Cousins goes. I think they might go for a quarterback and push up. But if they don't, then it feels like corner is the obvious move for them to go for. So yeah, I like it. I think Terrion Arnold has shown that he's been pretty good all of his time at college. There's some other people, people like Quinion Mitchell, think that he should be the number 1. I really like Cooper DeJean. I think he looks really, really good. But he's not being mocked up quite this high. But there's a lot of corners in this class, but completely get why he's picked this guy.
Yeah, DeJean's injury sort of knocked him a little bit. Nate Wiggins is another one that a lot of people are talking about. Or Kool-Aid McKinstry, who was everybody's number 1 before the season started, who's also at Alabama. Adam, we've had nothing crazy down to 11 yet. It's going well. Denver Broncos at 12, taking Bo Nix from Oregon, taking a quarterback, Adam. Our next quarterback off the board. You can argue that this is possibly where the draft starts. Yeah, I think he's right there. That top 11 is kind of where most people have gone. You know, there are going to be quarterbacks taken up high. The Broncos could try and trade up if Sean Payton falls in love with one of the top quarterbacks, but they don't have a lot of ammunition to do so because they don't have a second round pick. Russell Wilson didn't work out, blah, blah, blah. I wonder if it says. Okay. Bo Nix going to Denver. How do you feel about this one?
So I think they probably do need to go quarterback. I don't see Russell Wilson coming back. It just seems like it's going to be a really difficult to work that back. So I think they do need to go quarterback. I kind of get the logic of Nix because he's kind of like, he is that pocket passer, which I kind of felt like Drew Brees was a little bit at the end of his career. So I kind of see the similarity in that, and that might be why Peyton would like to go with him. So I kind of get the logic that Klatt's gone for here. It sort of makes sense in that respect. I think it's very high for Nix personally. I don't think that he should be going at this point. I think he should be a little bit lower. So yeah, I get it. It's I think you could argue that maybe there's some other places that they could probably do with some help, but I suppose at the end of the day, if they haven't got a quarterback, then they're kind of stuffed, aren't they, from day one? So that's probably why Klatt's gone down this route.
Yeah, they haven't. It's not worked out with Russell Wilson. His house is on the market. It definitely looks like in the next couple of weeks he'll probably be cut, or if he's not traded. And I think what's really interesting about this, when we're talking about Joel Klatt putting him in at that point, Joel Klatt actually played for New Orleans at a time when Drew Brees was there and Sean Payton. So he was in the room with those guys. So he'll have the best understanding of what type of quarterback Sean Payton likes and what he wants from a quarterback, because obviously he was the quarterback himself at New Orleans. So I think it's really interesting that he's gone and picked Bo Nix out of the guys that are left, because Bo Nix, when you look at him grade his quarterbacks, wasn't the fourth best quarterback on his top 5 list. So it's really interesting that he goes Bo Nix here, and he's got that inside knowledge, which I really, really like. So I'm going to say he knows what he's on about with this pick, even if it's not the one I would have gone with.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like I say, I get the logic. It kind of makes sense. It's more just, I suppose, it being so high for the guy that it is. But at the end of the day, if it's the player you want, we saw with the Lions, didn't we, last year? If it's the player that you want, you go and get him. So, and it worked out for them. So why wouldn't it work out here?
Pick 13 is the Raiders. They take Talisa Fuaga from Oregon State, the offensive tackle. The Raiders need help up front and they need to get more physical. I like Fuaga a lot. Not many people got to see him a ton, but he was terrific with Jonathan Smith the last couple of years. Oregon State was really good running team, in large part due to Fuaga. He was one of the best offensive linemen in the country. Yeah, we've spoke about him as well, and you really like Fuaga, don't you? You've got him as your number 2, haven't you? Arguably your number 2.
Yeah, I think him and Fashanu are very close, but I do like the fact that Fuaga's he seems to be just that he wants to bury people. He wants to go through people. I think that's exactly what you want from an O-line guy. He looks like he could be something special. He really does. And, that would be great for the Raiders, who kind of, I think if it depends what they do at quarterback, because I do feel like they need to go out and get a quarterback. But if they don't upgrade that highly, then obviously the run game is going to be very important. And as Klatt says, the run game for Oregon was largely good due to Fuaga, and so I think having him on the O line would be brilliant for Josh Jacobs. I really do, and so that would make a really big difference.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue they're a team that aren't a couple of pieces away from being in the playoffs. They've got to think bigger picture. So
Yeah, there were times, wasn't there, where you actually felt like they could have nicked in there. They weren't too far away. So yeah, you do feel like they're not that far off.
So getting a tackle for the future is key. Aidan O'Connell didn't look horrendous. So I think if they brought in a veteran, because it looked like Garoppolo he's definitely out, isn't he? After his did they cut him? Did they cut him due to
He's gone,
due to his misbehaving? So I think he might even be done after that. But I'd be surprised. Maybe I don't know. Maybe go back to the Patriots. They always like to take on a bad boy, don't they, and try and sort them out from their problems. Pick 14 is the New Orleans Saints taking Jared Verse from Florida State. Verse is a really good athletic player. I like him a lot. I could see him with double-digit sacks early in his career. Yeah, we spoke about this guy being a true edge rusher. And, if that's the case and he is sort of, he'll be going for the sack records in time to come as the next wave of true edge rushers there is. I've also said there's a lot of mock drafts. Everything one we've done has had a player that we've said we've had wide receiver here, and we've had, what else did we have? We had something else, and we both said that's not what they need. They need edge. So we finally got someone putting an edge rusher in there for them. Adam, this is right, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the right position, and more importantly, it's the right guy as well. He's like we say, he's very complete. We think that he could probably go in day one, really make an impact, and that's what they need. Because the thing is that they're not going to be able to go out and spend a lot. They've been in cap hell for God knows how long, so they really need someone like this who can make an instant impact for them. Yeah, really like the pick. Think it'd be great for the Saints to take him.
They've already restructured Carr and Cam Jordan's contracts, haven't they? So they have created a little bit of wiggle room for themselves, but this is the pick. Indianapolis Colts taking cornerback Quinion Mitchell from Toledo. The Colts need help on their defense, particularly in the secondary. I don't think a lot of people know Mitchell unless you follow the college football game in depth. And he's a guy who can be under the radar riser. He's got good speed and he's fluid. I already know what his combine, it was today. I know what his combine 40 was, and it was quick. So he has got the speed and he's right there. Not a lot of people have seen him. I didn't see a lot of him, and I follow the game. But once he went to the Senior Bowl and I saw him shutting down big names, I was like, wow, we need to take some serious thought into this guy. And it just seems like he's now going from strength to strength to strength. So two areas, cornerback and interior defensive line. If they don't keep Grover Stewart, it's where they had an issue. So I think this is Mitchell or Byron Murphy for me here.
Yeah, I mean, we said, didn't we, that their biggest problem last year was that they just conceded so many points in games. It's like if you ever wanted the over on the points, they were the team to follow, and that was the problem. For them, it was just an absolute nightmare. And so, yeah, I mean, to be honest, anywhere on that defense would be a benefit to them. But yeah, corner is definitely one. As you said, a lot of people saw Mitchell at the Senior Bowl, really impressed by him, and it would be a great choice. I mean, as I've said, there's a lot of them that are decent at corner are going to go in the first round, but there's about 6 or 7, and then it drops off big time. But I mean, Mitchell's definitely one of the ones that you want.
Pick 16, the Seattle Seahawks taking quarterback J.J. McCarthy from Michigan. I was just reading, sorry. This is so interesting because of their new coaching staff, Mike McDonald, coaching under John Harbaugh and Jim Harbaugh, then John Harbaugh again. What do you think he's going to be trying to build? The Raven Michigan way. That's going to be great defense, hard edges, run stuffer in the middle, and good hybrid players in the secondary. Offensively, they want to be able to ground and pound. So I've just briefly read just so I could paraphrase and get to it. I'm interested in this pick because I thought Penix would be good for the Seahawks. I thought he'd fit in nicely. But what we saw from JJ McCarthy was his ability to be a leader and ability to buy into the coach's game plan. So if the game plan was you don't throw the ball at all this game, he went in there and went, I don't throw the ball this game, handed it off, and did his job and did it well. And when he was asked to throw, he threw well, which is something that the Seahawks were lacking last year, weren't they? Where you know, they could have just ran the ball, and then when they're asked to throw, maybe it didn't quite happen with Geno as much. I understand the pick because it does fit for them. I'm just not that high on McCarthy as a talent, and I don't know whether they'll come unstuck later down the line, but it makes sense.
Yeah, so again, everything about this is very logical, which seems to be a common theme that's coming through this draft. I think that it makes complete sense to go for this. Obviously, he's had all that time with the Harbaughs in different teams, and Mike McDonald is obviously looking at that and going, well, if he did it there, then he can do it for me. And that's the way that I want to play as well. So all of that kind of makes sense. Apparently, the majority of people in the NFL are actually very high on JJ McCarthy. And it's us lot and professional media that are basically coming out and saying that we don't see it. So it seems like a lot of the teams are very high on him. They're saying that they think that he's easily a top 10 pick in the NFL. So it's almost like the Seahawks would have to move up for this to become a reality. But no, I get why he's saying what he's saying. And I think the idea of sitting behind Geno wouldn't be the worst idea in the world for him for one season. I think that would work quite nicely for him. So that would be the way forward. But yeah. Bit high for me, bit high for you, bit high for all of us at the franchise tag, but it does seem to be the way the NFL is going with him.
Well, away from maybe the podcast, I know in our group chats we've said that we think McCarthy needs to sit a year. He is very, very young. He's the youngest of a lot of the prospects coming through this year. A lot of them have got 5-6 years worth of college play, whereas he's only got the 3. And there was talks of him returning as well, but he won the national championship, so he had no need to. So that's why it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Because we do think he can sit behind Geno and then take the position, because it looks like they've even had the chats that Geno's definitely going to be on the roster for next season. They've told him, so that's out there. So if they go back on that would be really, really crap for him. Pick number lots on the lot here. What is this? Still just talking about JJ McCarthy? I just say there, Washington offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb is now the offensive coordinator in Seattle. So many think that they would take Penix. That is interesting. That is a real key point. As soon as they hired Ryan Grubb, I thought they'd definitely taken Penix, but Joel Klatt doesn't seem to think so. Pick 17, the Jacksonville Jaguars taking Nate Wiggins, the cornerback from Clemson. The Jags need help in the secondary. Wiggins is one of my top corner prospects in the draft, so a natural fit here. Again, we've seen a couple of different picks at this point, but cornerback we have had nailed on as the pick for them to take. And Nate Wiggins is a phenomenal talent, and he is super quick.
Yeah. Absolutely. We've been saying it all through these mock drafts that corner's the way forward. I think Mel Kiper did corner. I think that Daniel Jeremiah's done corner. Joel Klatt's done corner. This is a fairly logical move and would be quite a shock, to be honest, if they didn't. It needs to be on the defense for certain. Corner was the area that it kind of feels like was a little bit weaker. So yeah, makes complete sense. And Wiggins looks really good. Like I say, I haven't seen him at the combine and what he's done, but it sounds like at the senior, was he at the Senior Bowl? I can't remember if he was or not, but certainly in college he's looked very, very good. And it would be a surprise if he didn't go around. He might even go before this, but certainly corner's the way forward for him.
some people have got him as the number one corner. I know that.
Yeah.
But like we said, I think Klatt addressed earlier in it that there's a handful of guys that could all be. He just had fallen in love with Terrion Arnold a bit more. Pick 18, the Cincinnati Bengals taking JC Latham from Alabama. I think this will be a start of a run of offensive tackles. So he thinks at this point, a load of tackles are going to come off the board. There's a few I'd like to be picked in the mid to late round, first round. The Bengals need offensive line. Latham makes sense. He was Alabama's right tackle, and Bengals need to protect Joe Burrow. Getting JC Latham at 18 is a steal. He's my offensive tackle 3 on my board. So he's complete, and he is an extremely good talent.
Yeah, really good O lineman that's coming out of college. You got to keep Joe Burrow upright. It's that simple, isn't it? And again, it's the same old thing. It's like you either get a weapon for him, or you get someone to protect him. And the fact is that T. Higgins has been franchise tagged now, so it looks like, you know, Tyler Boyd, I think, is going, but at the end of the day, it's like they could probably get someone very cheap or someone later on in the draft to replace that. So yeah, O-line's the way forward. Like you say, Latham is your number 3 guy. He looks like a really good talent. So yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a no-brainer. And the defense, I would argue, maybe wasn't quite as good last year as it had been before, but it's still a very good defense. And so it kind of feels like this is the problem area, is that O-line, and so it makes a lot of sense.
They picked up a couple of really good rookie wide receivers last year, so I think they will fit in quite nicely. Now they're bringing Higgins back. Sounds like Higgins wants to stay there, and they want to get a deal done, which is great news. So pick number 19, he did say he was going to have a string of offensive tackles. The Rams take in offensive tackle Amaris Mims, similar to the Bengals. Pick up offensive lineman makes a lot of sense for the Rams. They're not going to get many more years with Stafford, so they need to protect him. Mims, who played right tackle at Georgia, can step right in and do that. I've got no objection to them taking offensive line. They definitely need offensive line help. I just didn't know whether they also need edge help, and whether the edges that are left on the board are better than Mims for me as a talent prospect, but it makes sense.
Yeah, I kind of agree in a way that I think edge would have been useful. I mean, Latu is still on the board, isn't he? So that would have been one that would have been great for them to pick up here. But yeah, I get the whole O-line thing, keeping Matthew Stafford upright. That does make sense. I'm not 100% sure about Amaris Mims being sort of like step right in and be there on day one. I think he is a bit of a prospect and one to sort of, he's going to need to develop a little bit. But yeah, I think that he's definitely one that would be able to make a difference in quite a short space of time for them.
Yeah, I know obviously he's got no trades in this one, but I think a lot of people were saying that the Rams might trade down so they can get more O-linemen. So they may do that just to get a few more picks, because they're not desperate. They just need more of them and to be younger at that position. So getting multiples would probably be better. Pick 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers take an offensive tackle, Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma. The Steelers fall into that vein of offensive lineman needy team. I'd watch for Guyton, who played right tackle at Oklahoma. You really like Tyler Guyton as well, don't you? You were unhappy that he wasn't on our top 10 list when we spoke about them. That's just because I had interior alignment on it as well. Steelers, we said they can go 2 ways, O-line or cornerback. So they've tried O-line a few times now, and it hasn't really worked. Either is fine, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it is O-line and corner. I mean, it kind of feels a little bit like a repeat of last year, to be brutally honest. It's O-line and corner. And they just need to keep doing that. I think that if they keep going down that route, then eventually they'll get enough guys in there in them positions that will make a difference. But yeah, it's a difficult one for the Steelers because they're never really bad enough in order to get a really top quality player. And I do like Guyton. I think he's going to be very good. But he's not a top O lineman. You know, this is the problem. He's quite young. He's quite inexperienced, and I think that's something that it might take a little bit of time for him to make a difference. So, I suppose the Steelers. I just don't know if they're one of them organisations that have really got that much time because of that defense is so strong, and it's like it's gonna go eventually, and that's the only problem with picking someone like Guyton up. I mean, I don't really know who else you go for. Maybe you do go for a corner. There are some really top quality corners still available, and that would help them. But yeah, I mean, anyone O-line or corner can only help. But I just don't know if this guy is necessarily the right one.
Yeah, they got Broderick Jones last year, who is decent. So it's not they're not desperate, but equally they got Joey Porter, who looked decent as well. So they're not desperate there either. It's just strengthen it. We did say when we're talking about O-line, you need 5 of them. You only need you need more than 2 corners, but you know, 1 great corner is better. You definitely need 5 great O-linemen. Pick 21. This is where it gets interesting, Adam. The Miami Dolphins taking Michael Penix. Now, I've listened to his show, so I know exactly what he says about it. And I can't help but agree with everything he says, which we'll go through. But it's not, I just can't see it being the pick. This is the fascinating pick. The Dolphins need to make a decision on Tua's contract. There are so many advantages to not paying your quarterback. And someone who has suffered 10 concussions during my college year, so he had a load of concussions himself. I'm going to put this into as possible, given he is a huge risk. I think Tua is 1 concussion away from retiring himself. All right, let's see. So I can see Penix fitting in with this offense and these weapons, looking similar to how he did at college. Imagine the Dolphins getting to start over with a rookie deal at the position while getting to solidify what they've got, particularly at the skill positions, and having a quarterback who is better downfield passer than Tua. Colin Cowherd's actual comparison for Michael Penix was a bigger, stronger, better passer version of Tua. So essentially, I think they've had a chat and gone, this makes perfect sense, because it does make perfect sense, doesn't it? Why would you spend a load of money on Tua when you could have Tua 2.0 upgrade and reset the wage bill there? They do need defense though.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean that's kind of the obvious, is that they do need help on the defense. It's something that their problem wasn't that they couldn't score points. Their problem was that they couldn't stop points going against them. So defense is definitely something that they need to do. I feel like this pick is very, and we've been saying it all the way through, it's quite a logical pick in respect of you've basically got a prototype, is essentially what you've done here. And you've kind of gone, well, this guy plays the same as Tua. He doesn't really rush that much like Tua. He's lefty like Tua. He has the ability to throw downfield like Tua, but he's kind of like, he is a little bit stronger and he is a little bit more accurate maybe, and things like that. And I think that's something that Klatt has obviously seen, and then also he's brought in his own personal experience here, hasn't he, of like where he's played and had concussions and what that actually means to someone who has all these concussions. And the fact of the matter is now that if you're paying a quarterback, you're paying them like 40+ million for many years, and that's a hell of a lot of money to be passing out to a guy who, like you say, you could have 1 concussion and he could be out for a very long time because of it. So it is a concern. I mean, it would be a shock if they did it. The idea of having a player like Tyreek Hill there, who's basically come out and said he's got 2 years left before he retires, and he's got himself a rookie quarterback, just seems crazy. It really does. But I understand the sort of theory behind it. I just don't see it, like you say, I don't see a team doing it.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, but yeah. Go and listen to his actual podcast, because it does make perfect sense. You could buy into it. If you listen to it, you could buy into it. 22, the Philadelphia Eagles taking a center. It says O-line, he is a center. Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon. The Eagles likely need to find their heir apparent to Jason Kelsey. Powers was a center at Oregon, although he doesn't necessarily have to play center in the NFL. He can also play guard as well. He is the best center in the draft, and he's the best center by a long way. So if they desperately need center, but they got Cam Jurgens to do that. I know he's been playing guard instead, but I think, again, corner is there's still the guys on the board, and that's where they were screwed. Whether they really, really like Keely Ringo and Eli Ricks, who were their rookies last year, is coming in and replacing Bradbury and Slay, I don't know. Do people know something we don't? Because no one's gone cornerback yet from this, have they?
No. So a lot of people are saying corner, but I think that there is a lot of talk, isn't there, at the moment about Snead out of Kansas, about whether or not they go for him. And so therefore, if they do go for him, then they wouldn't go corner. So maybe that's the logic behind it, that when a weakness is seen, Howie Roseman has a tendency to go and pay big for it. And that's what he did at wide receiver with AJ Brown. And now it kind of feels a little bit like, right, corner is the next thing. And so he's going to be willing to pay big. So there does seem to be that sort of logic and theory behind it, in which case, if that was to happen, then I suppose this kind of is a kind of logical spot to do and to go for. But yeah, I agree, they do need corner. There's still plenty of good corners out there, but if they go for a corner in free agency, this is probably the right guy to go for.
I heard that the Chiefs, obviously they want to bring back Chris Jones, so Snead is the one that's going to go. That they might try and trade him before the free agency starts, because he's not technically free agent yet, is he? So they can pick where he's going to go rather than go onto the open market and go to the Eagles, which makes perfect sense, because you don't want the Eagles having him.
No,
you could be coming up against them in the Super Bowl. So that makes good sense. And I think that'd be good business for the Chiefs if they can get that done. But yeah. Pick 23, the Houston Texans taking edge rusher Liatu Latu from UCLA. That would be insane. Anderson and Liatu Latu, who you love. He's your edge one, isn't he?
yeah.
To assume that CJ Stroud is going to get better and better. If he's going to, the thing is, they can do in the pass rush. We said this, they're a bit old apart from Will Anderson at front seven, aren't they? So they could do with the help. It's not a must need, but yeah, he's got double-digit sacks over the last 2 years. Do you? It's a luxury pick for them, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But then, I mean, they've got themselves in this position where you sort of think offensively, what else do you want? Obviously, there's some depth stuff you could go for, but that you don't need to go for it here. Defensively, they looked all right. They didn't look too bad. So, I mean, if you've got Will Anderson on one side and Latu on the other, it's it's going to be difficult for a lot of teams to stop that. And yeah, I mean, this guy, I just think he looks amazing. I really do. I just think his technical ability is off the charts, and he's definitely someone that's going to make a massive impact in the NFL. So I think it's great for him.
Pick 24, the Dallas Cowboys taking offensive tackle Jordan Morgan. This isn't a sexy pick for the Cowboys, but Morgan makes a lot of sense. Tyron Smith is 33 and a free agent, so they need help at offensive tackle. We've been saying that. I've been saying, a lot of their O-line is one injury away from being non-existent O-line. So he's said exactly what we said. I was saying along the lines of, I don't think they'll pick tackle because they like the sexy pick, but they've got to.
Yeah, I mean, it makes complete sense. Again, another pick that Klatt's made that makes complete sense. Morgan's a very solid O lineman, isn't he? We both thought he was pretty good, and he's going to be pretty good in the NFL. Yeah, you just sort of feel like it's the obvious choice, and it's just purely going to be a matter of whether Jerry Jones wants to go for something a bit crazy. But yeah, he's definitely the obvious one to go for.
Pick number 25, the Green Bay Packers, taking someone I'm a massive fan of, defensive tackle Byron Murphy from Texas. The Packers desperately need help on the interior, on their defense to stop the run. I like Murphy. He played great with Steve Sarkisian in Texas. Adam, you've got to be buzzing for this pick. You think they need help on that D-line. You think he's got it right here?
Yeah, I think it's a great person to get in there. I mean, Murphy has shown how good he can be in college, and he would be ideal to go on that D line and really make a difference, to kind of almost be able to just help out Rashawn Gary a bit and stuff like that. I think that would be great. I do think that there's a lot of talk. They've moved some stuff around for cap space, and apparently the idea is that they're going to be potentially looking to bring in free agency some sort of like safety help. So I don't think they're going to go down that route. Corner, again, just the depth at corner would be useful, but the offense doesn't need a lot apart from O-line, just depth again. So yeah, I think that this would be a really good pick for them, and someone who could be a bit of a difference maker.
Definitely a difference maker. Definitely, it was your biggest downfall in some of your games, and you got a really young team, a really talented team. I think you've drafted. Do you remember the last time you could put your hand on your heart and say, when is the last time the Packers had a bad draft?
Yeah, I mean, they never have a bad one. It's just that they don't normally have a great one. I think that's what it is. It tends to be very solid and very sort of like it takes quite a lot for it to go wrong.
I believe that after the season finished, I'm guessing they do the rankings, but they were ranked 2 or 3 in best drafts last year. So you nailed it, really. So yeah, this would be another great pick if you got that. Pick 26, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, taking cornerback Cooper DeJean from Iowa. The Bucs need to bolster up their secondary. So how about taking the Hawkeye? Thanks for that, Klatt. Who had 7 interceptions and 3 pick sixes over the last couple of seasons. You're high on DeJean. I love DeJean. Are they bringing Mike Evans back? If the talk, it seems like they might be. If they don't, they need to go wide receiver here. If they do, cornerback is the right decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Corner is an area that they could do with a bit of strength and depth they need in. So I think that someone like DeJean would be brilliant for them to have on their team. Like you say, if Mike Evans doesn't come back, then they've got to go wide receiver. They've got to do something, because basically without him there, it's essentially Chris Godwin in the slot, and that's about it, really. So yeah, they really need to do something there. But yeah, DeJean, I think he looks like a really good corner. He's another one of these corners that are just really, really talented, and yeah, one that any team would be lucky to have, really.
Without the injury, I think we would have seen him go a lot higher. Pick 27, the Arizona Cardinals, taking edge Chop Robinson from Penn State. The Cardinals had the third fewest sacks, and they get the opportunity to draft a hell of a player from Penn State. I thought about having the Cowboys select Robinson, but Robinson is an explosive and good fit for the Cardinals. That'd be interesting if he went to. He's a good pick. That would be a good pick for Dallas. He's right there. That would be a good pick. They need some help, like Chop Robinson is. To be fair, do you think they go offense then defense? Do you think they go O line here? They've got a lot of holes that they need to fill. the defense is one of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues on that defense, and there are a few things that could help the offense as well, but they do have a lot of issues on the defense. So Chop Robinson would make a lot of sense. This is kind of the spot that I feel like Chop Robinson should be, rather than where he seems to be being mentioned at the moment. I think this sort of like towards the back of the first makes a lot of sense. The Cardinals need someone, and yeah, he has the potential to really be a difference maker if he can he's got the athleticism. He just needs to sort of like be a little bit better against the run, but against the pass, he's great. Yeah, so I think that you'll probably see that he would be a decent fit for the Cardinals. And you've already got your wide receiver, haven't you, in Marvin Harrison? So you don't really need to really do much more on that offense, or certainly something that maybe they could look at in free agency. So yeah, Robinson's a good pick.
Pick 28, the Buffalo Bills, taking wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU. The Bills need to do something on the outside for Josh Allen. Stefon Diggs is 30 and Gabe Davis is a free agent. So why not give him Thomas? This is the other guy that I was really excited about. Most touchdowns of any of the wide receivers, wasn't it, last season? I think he had 17, didn't he? A former basketball player, got super speed, super vertical. We've said they need a wide receiver. If they get him, that would be a home run hit for me.
Yeah, absolutely. They need a wide receiver. Davis is looks like he's on his way out. Diggs, as he says, is 30, and so won't have much time left in the NFL. Thomas is exactly what you need, that kind of wide receiver. It's very much him and Franklin, and kind of like which one you prefer. But I think personally, Thomas is probably a better prospect myself. And they need a wide receiver. They need to. It's been a long time since they've gone for a wide receiver in the first round, and they need to make a big splash in that area.
Pick number 29, the Detroit Lions taking cornerback Anis Rackshaw Jr. from Missouri. A great playoff run for the Lions. Yeah, they clearly needed help in the secondaries right there. This is the right pick, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. He looks like another decent corner, and they desperately need help in that area. Everything else was fine. The offense was pretty decent. The D line wasn't bad either. Aiden Hutchinson was great, but over the top was quite easy to get at them, and that's definitely what needs to happen.
Pick 30, the Baltimore Ravens. Sorry, I muted my mic. You probably heard in the back, my dog did a little bark, so I muted it. The Baltimore Ravens taking wide receiver Keon Coleman from Florida State. Sorry about that. I will go and see to him in 1 second. Adam, take it away.
Yeah, so Keon Coleman, not my idea of a fantastic wide receiver, but he would be a little bit different for the Ravens. He's kind of got the height and the strength in that respect. I just feel like he's not quite the finished article yet, and I feel like that the Ravens are in a position where they're looking to win now. So I don't know if that's necessarily something that they want to be going for. I do think that he's got potential, and so I think because of that, you can understand why they've gone for Coleman. But I just feel like he needs. I don't know. I feel like someone like Franklin might be a little bit better for them, given the speed. Obviously, Rashad Bateman's not there anymore, and neither Odell. We don't know if he's going to be back or not. Probably not. So it does feel like wide receiver is the right position for them to go for. So I get the position. I'm just not 100% on the player.
Yeah, I really like him. I think he's fantastic. I think Joel Klatt's also got him as his 5th best pass catcher on his list. But yeah, outside of Zay Flowers, they're going to struggle. I think they've said they're going to try and get Bateman involved a bit more in this season. But I think the wide receiver is definitely where they need the help.
Yeah. No, I agree. The wide receiver is where they need the help. I just don't think he's necessarily the one.
Yeah. Pick 31, the San Francisco 49ers taking cornerback Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama. Similar to the Lions, the 49ers can bolster their pass rush to improve their secondary. We've said this as well. Luxury pick, need cornerback, and to have a guy that everybody thought was going to be the number one cornerback on the board still here, that's a phenomenal player. The downside they said for him is his ceiling isn't high enough, but is that because he's already brilliant?
Yeah, I think the problem is that what you've probably seen is you've seen a lot of corners just have tested well and have looked really good, and maybe McKinstry hasn't done that so much, or maybe they're just people like the different ones that are available. I know that he's not testing, is he, at the combine this week because of the is it the Jones fracture that he's got in his foot? I think that's what it is. So, you know, maybe it's things like that that have kind of put him off a little bit. And I think there's just other guys that maybe people like a little bit more. He looked like a really good corner though in college, and but yeah, they don't really need anything, to be honest. That's why they got to the Super Bowl. But you know, it's something that like you say, a luxury pick, and I think that he would be good for them. So yeah, I completely get why he's gone for him.
And finally, the last pick, the Kansas City Chiefs, taking wide receiver Troy Franklin from Oregon. Mahomes would get a better player. Third best wide receiver in college last season. Oh, I love this pick. He would be fantastic for them. It is the spot on pick.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, especially with MVS obviously going and being released during so he's going to hit free agency. So yeah, Franklin makes a lot of sense. He looked really good at Oregon. Pat Mahomes can pretty much do no wrong anyway, so why not have another wide receiver there to help him out? He needs as many weapons as he can get, and we always kind of just felt like he wasn't quite at the right, you know, that the weapons around him weren't quite strong enough. They won anyway, but like, you know, Franklin can only make that better. So completely get the pick. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, perfect. He literally he's the perfect guy for the Chiefs. Rashee Rice would complement him really well. He was fantastic last year. Again, it's a steal for the Chiefs. The Chiefs keep managing to get these steals at the pick 32, don't they? It's just building a team around picking last in the draft. It is very, very good. That is the last pick we have for Joel Klatt. Adam, that's possibly the most well-rounded, logical, best one we've been through so far. The knowledge that he's got of college is definitely helping this.
Yeah, I think logical is probably the word. I think a lot of that kind of makes sense. The Michael Penix pick is probably the one that's a little bit left field, but even that, there is a logic to it, which kind of I can understand why he's saying what he's saying. But yeah, all the others, the positions were all right. It's just a matter of really which particular guy you like at that position at a certain time. But yeah, I mean, you can't really fault him for a lot of it. So we will see what some of the others are like later on during the draft process.
Yeah, really interested to see his 2.0 when that comes out. Really interested to see his trades as well, if he does one with trades, seeing what he has there. As I said, he's got his own podcast. He's really interesting. If you do want to get into college football, Joel Klatt's the one to listen to for me. So college football is going to be fantastic next year as well with the new format. So now's the time to get into it if you want to. That's all we've got time for. Hang on, I thought I had a comment. That's all we've got time for. We will be back next week with another mock the mock. Adam, you're going to put out a poll and see who you guys want us to go through. There's not long left until we have to comprise our own as well. All our draft prospect videos are going out, so go and watch them if you want to learn a bit more about the players. But till then, guys, keep it with the franchise tag, and we will see you again soon.